There is no such thing as a chance in the world, and if you put your mind in the right space, I totally believe the right person will come along. And I went to a party one night and met a woman called Trudy Kynaston, whose husband was Julian Kynaston, that just happened to have a little design company in Holmfirth. Now, I was paralytic, swearing. The swearing comes because I wouldn't take the diazepam when it all kicked off, and the swearing got it all out, so there's my excuse. And you know what? When I do women's events and I don't swear, I've got a queue from here to there going, what is wrong with you? Aren't you well? Cutting a long story short, Julian and Trudy, God bless them, and, you know, no such thing as a chance, but they gave me a job working in their company, which was Propaganda, the agency that ended up doing GHD, and I think they're the third largest outside London now. They were nearly bloody bankrupt. And Julian will stand up there and tell you, I knew they were nearly bankrupt on my first day at work because they had the insurance people in. I knew they weren't insurance people, they were bloody bailiffs because they'd been in my house the week before. They're like, oh, honey, what are you doing here? Oh, come on in. All I did was what I was born to do and what that market stall and all the experiences of my life taught me how to do. I took what I learned on those markets and I modified them and I reapplied them to another medium, and that were cold calling. That very first day, I got 4 brand new meetings from cold. Now, just to put that into perspective, the previous new business people hadn't got 4 brand new meetings in 9 months. One of those meetings, I will never forget it, ever, as long as I live. 6 weeks later, again, pivotal moment, my life changed. They always used to put me in office when I used to be employed, in downstairs office at cellar. I wonder why. And one day, 6 weeks in, Julian Kynaston, a very tall, if everybody knows him, he's 6'5", he's got size 13 feet, so he says. And we didn't have fax in those days, it's 14 years ago. And he comes to the top of the stairs and he goes, Sweet, he used to call me Sweet, Sweet, read this. And he threw this fax down the stairs. And when they do the film of my life, which they will, it will be Irma Thurman, I think. Make sure that when she goes to the toilet, they're dressing it back of the knickers. It seemed to come down in the fax in slow motion. By the time it had got to the bottom, I'd virtually cleared my desk because I thought he were going to sack me. One of those meetings had turned into a £220,000 piece of work. It was Lancashire Dairies, actually, just over there. And isn't that just the magic of selling a new business? Because that little fax changed things for everybody. It changed things for Trudy and Julian, so we're no debt anymore. Just got cleared off. They only turned over $500,000 a year. It changed things for boys and girls that worked in the design part of the business because they'd never worked on a household name. But most of all, it changed things for our Nicky, because I went from that pissed up, swearing, angry, resentful bird to, Nicky, how do you do it? No, seriously, how do you do it? And that became how we defined. I did a year there, we did 27 grand short of $1 million just by taking what I'd learned up markets, modifying it, reapplying it to another medium. Then I went to Attica Global Agency and I realised I could pick the bloody phone up to New York, and next thing I were on a jet. I couldn't believe this. And all I did was be myself. Lesson absolutely one. Everything in life comes through who you are. And if I'd have changed to be like everybody else, it'd never happen. The thing was that when I got to New York, to AT&T, Fox News, CBS, because I'd sold myself so well at phone, they actually gave me a bloody big box of sports stuff for my 11-year-old son, 12-year-old son that were waiting at home. That became my trigger. I wonder what I can get for Awadani. If I go to Italy, to Diesel, I wonder if they'll give me a load of T-shirts. So I'd get myself a meeting again, and I'd come back with all T-shirts. And then something happened, and, you know, a lot of people in this room will know what I'm talking about. When you know that you wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning and it's all over. And that's what happened to me. 5 years in at the Attic. I woke up 4 o'clock in the morning, and if I'd have gone out and got a meeting with God to rebrand heaven that day, it would not have been enough, because that's not what I was addicted to. It was the growing. So by 9 o'clock, I jacked in my cards to full-time employment, 45 years old, on 38,000 a year, and a new BMW every year, being headhunted all the time for doing what I do by all kinds of different companies. I jacked it all in. By 1 o'clock, I thought, you know what, I'd really like a soft-top Mercedes, blah, blah, bit fancy. I'd got $1,000 and got and put a deposit on it. By tea time, I'd gone to the bank, still got the same bank manager. We were laughing about it the other day, and I went in and I said, look, I need to buy an house now. Can't live in this little house. Our Danny, can't have an office. Got to work, got to be there for him all the time. I need some brash. You're going to give me a mortgage. He says, well, how much do you want, Nicky? I says, well, about $250,000, because house prices have gone like that. He says, how are you going to pay that off? I says, no, it's because I jacked in my cards at work this morning. And I swear, he looked at me and he said, Nicky, I really believe in you. You find the house and I'll get the money. And you know what? We've never missed a mortgage payment on 21 Old Mill Lane. Thank you, God. I started up my own little new business, which was hugely successful. But then one day, and you always get put to where you're meant to be, one day somebody said, Nicky, will you go to Royal Armouries and just stand up and talk about what you do to 300 business people? My life changed again that night. It was like I'd seen in the film in my head when I was young, because I always knew that I would be on stage doing something. I always knew I'd be famous for doing something. I just couldn't get it in my head what it was going to be. And that night, I went to Porsche cars, Rolls Royce, Adidas and Nike, and said, I think you bought off me because of X, Y, and Z. They all turned around and said, Nicky, that X, Y, and Z, it's actually freaking genius. You could have bottled it and sell it. That night I will never forget, another pivotal moment where you know that you're never going to go back. And I just said, thank you very much. It's the first time I've done it. It's meant such a lot. And there were a millisecond pause, and the whole freaking place went up. And my life changed again that night, because I started to do what I were meant to do. Let's just have a little look at what selling is. Because we're at the Alchemists Foundation. Well, selling is alchemy. Because you take something and you put words and form around it. And then you put it out into the world. And from that something comes absolutely everything. Locally, nationally, and internationally. I know that because I've done it. We only ever sell ourselves, so don't ever, ever change. But you will always be defined by what you create in the world. And selling is creation. And I might sound a bit over-romantic now, but actually I've proved it time and time and time again.